You're at Father Fish. Nice to have you with us. Well, hello again. This is Father Fish. I want to talk to you today about setting up your new aquarium. Now, depending on the size of your tank, the product you'll need is going to vary somewhat. Basically, if you use 1 pound of sand for every gallon of water, you'll be pretty close. Now, the system we're going to discuss today is the dirted tank. I try to set these up as much as possible. A dirted tank will last longer and you can accomplish more with it. You can grow plants in it. You can have a really lovely tank. The dirt, however, is really very simple. You want to start with a good quality, natural potting soil with no fertilizers. If you have peat moss or can get peat moss, a 50-50 peat moss and potting soil is a good mix. You want about 1 inch in your tank. So that's going to be 2 to 3 gallons of potting soil and peat moss combined. 3 gallons will work a little better. About a half a 5-gallon bucket full. Mix the two together and add water. If you use a bucket, it'll work out a lot better. Add water until you reach the consistency of concrete slurry. You want it wet but not soupy, like a mud pie. Stir it good and let it sit for at least an hour. Now, there are supplements that you can use. In my shop, I sell a bag of supplements for $10. It contains about 7 different elements that will add to the longevity and will kickstart the system. You can buy those by calling Father Fish. We can ship them to you. It's really pretty inexpensive and pretty helpful. Once the tank is in place, you found a good place to put it, and it's on a solid, stable base, and the dirt that you have added water to has been sitting for at least an hour and is wet but not soupy. Use a net, a large fish net, to dip it out of the bucket. That way any excess water will drip off. You can squeeze it a little bit. You don't want it dry, but again, you don't want it soupy. Pour that into the tank, the empty tank. You're starting with the aquarium completely empty. Add that to about 1 inch. You can add a little more, but you don't really need much more than 1 inch of soil. The next step is to use a bag of silica sand. You can buy these at any pool store, swimming pool store. It's sand filtered sand. Silica is inert. It doesn't dissolve and it doesn't give off any elements. It's really perfect. It's a crystalline structure of crushed rock that will grow bacteria on its surfaces and not add to any problems in the tank. Now, the sand is a little dusty, but since you're adding it to the tank before you're putting water in, don't worry about the dust. It's going to stay down and stay in the sand. So begin pouring the sand in on top of the mud. Pour about 2 inches of sand. Keep pouring it in until the sand has risen about 2 inches above the level of the dirt. And then you've got enough. At that point, you need to lay a towel or put a plate in the aquarium so that when you put the water in, you're not going to stir it up. It's real important at this stage not to make a mess. If you stir up this soil sand mixture you've just put in your tank, you'll have to start all over again because it'll make a mess then. You're not going to be able to clean up easily. Pour water in on a plate or on a towel, something that will not disturb the sand soil base until it's full. Once it's within an inch or so of the top, you can stop. At that point, turn on your filter, whether you have a hang on the back filter or, as I like to use, a sponge filter, or simply a small power head. Really, all you need is to move the water around a little bit. That substrate you've put in is going to act as the primary filter for the aquarium. Begin adding substrate. Now you can do this before you begin putting the water in. Put rocks, driftwood, figurines, whatever it is you like. However you want to decorate the tank, you can start by putting those in at the beginning or after you've got the water in. Really doesn't matter much. You're not going to disturb things because you don't want to press it down below the level of the sand. Just an inch or so into the sand. Enough to make it stable so it doesn't fall over. At this point you can also plant. Now there are some plants you can put in at the very beginning. Cover plants, for example, are a good plant to put in before you even put the water in, or with perhaps an inch or so of water. Plant, add water, fill it to within an inch, add your substrate, do more plantings, turn on the filter, let it run for at least an hour. Now I should mention that if you're using chlorinated water, you will need to remove the chlorine. It's not going to come out automatically, and many municipalities add ammonia to the water to form chloramines, and those require a chlorine remover. What the chlorine remover will do is break the bond between the chlorine and the ammonia. So you need to use a little extra. I like to use double strength in order to be able to break that chemical bond. The chlorine remover will remove the chlorine. It will not remove the ammonia. So you may need to let the tank sit for a day to get the ammonia out. It's a good idea at this early stage to get both the pH kit and an ammonia test kit to make sure your ammonia is under control. That's the biggest single problem with new tanks. The soil in the tanks and the plants you've installed are going to go a long way toward controlling ammonia. So it's not going to be a major problem. Once you have all this done, then you can add fish. Now you don't need to wait a month or a week or even much more than a day. You can put fish in your tank immediately within the first few hours of setting it up. It's critical, however, that you do not feed your fish for at least the first 3 or 4 days. Give them a chance to acclimate, to settle in. They'll pick at some of the plants. You'll notice them begin to look for food. Then you can begin to feed. But feed very, very, very sparingly. The biggest single enemy of the new aquarist is food. You want to use a good quality food, but keep in mind that fish are always hungry. It's their natural condition. A healthy fish is a hungry fish. So you don't want to try to feed it until it's not hungry anymore. Let it be hungry. That'll keep it moving around, it'll keep it healthy, and it'll keep it happy. A fish processes its food within about 2 hours of eating it. So theoretically, they need to be fed all day long. If you do that, you're sure to foul your tank and kill your fish. After that first 3 days or so, feed once a day, very sparingly, perhaps no more than a flake or a pellet for each of the small fish that you put in your tank. Well, I guess that's enough to get started. We'll follow up a little. If you have some questions, post them, and I'll be happy to try to answer your question. We're going to follow up with a little more about introducing fish, feeding fish, and caring for your aquarium. But that'll get you started. Let us know how you feel about this. I know it's not popular wisdom, but popular wisdom is rarely valid. This is the old-timers system, and what I'm sure if you try, you will learn to love. So happy fishing. Have a great and a beautiful aquarium. This is Father Fish signing off. Talk to you again soon. Bye now. Thanks for plugging in and watching and being a part of this channel and this series of videos. Found something you've never seen before. Have a great day. Nice having you with us. Come on back.